Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, February 3rd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Akron game is in 210 days. The game against Michigan in 301 days. All right, we're going to be hearing more from some of the newest players on the Ohio State football team. We're going to start with Caleb Downs today. He's obviously probably the highest profile transfer the Buckeyes have landed this year. Be the one also that brought in the biggest amount of excitement among Ohio State fans. And it doesn't take a lot of thinking to figure out why that might be. He was a freshman All-American, started 12 games as a true freshman in the secondary for Nick Saban last year at Alabama. Yeah, that pretty much is all you need to know. So how surprised was Caleb Downs when Nick Saban announced that he was retiring?
It was a huge surprise walking into that meeting and him saying that my heart dropped for sure. But at the end of the day, if that's what he felt was best for him, I'd love him for it, and that's what he needed to do.
We actually talked a little bit about Caleb Downs on yesterday's show as well with Mark Givler, talking about how the 2022 Ohio State defense and the struggles that they had played a role in Caleb Downs picking Alabama over the Buckeyes coming out of high school. So what were his impressions of the 2023 Ohio State defense and how much they had really improved?
That's definitely true. They played great defense last year. And just watching the film and seeing how they progressed and seeing how their defense played last year definitely helped me make a more sound decision and having more facts about what I would be getting into.
One consistent thread in a lot of the secondary recruiting success, both through the portal and in the high school ranks for Ohio State recently, has been cornerbacks coach Tim Walton. He's a name that you hear from a lot of guys, and you hear kind of consistent things about Tim Walton from those recruits as well. So here's what Caleb Downs had to say about Tim Walton.
Very genuine person. He always keeps it straight with you. Everything that he says, he has come to fruition, so I can't knock him on anything. He's very close to my pops, too. They grew up together, so just knowing that relationship with him and our relationship together, I trust in him.
Now, Walton, of course, will not be Caleb Downs' position coach at Ohio State. Walton coaches the corners, and the safeties coach this year, replacing Perry Eliano, is Matt Guerrieri. So what are Caleb Downs' initial impressions of his position coach, Matt Guerrieri?
Great guy, very intelligent, a lot to learn from him. He knows this defense very well. Just being able to learn from him and see how he sees the game I think that'll very progress my development.
Mentioned off the top of the show that Caleb Downs started every game last season as a true freshman, as a safety for Nick Saban in a Nick Saban defense. Nick Saban, of course, famous for his defense, famous for specifically his focus on the secondary. So it takes a lot. So how the heck did Caleb Downs do that? What prepared him to take on that kind of role in that defense as a true freshman?
I think the development from when I was a kid. I've been training with my dad and my brother since I was 4 or 5 years old. So I don't want to say I was built for this, but I mean, at the end of the day, I've been doing this since I was a kid, so there's really been no change.
Nick Saban was one of a kind. The people want to throw around GOAT all the time with, everyone's the GOAT. You win 2 games in a row, you're the GOAT. It's amazing. Everyone is simultaneously the greatest of all time at whatever they do. However, with Nick Saban, it was probably deserved. Nick Saban probably going to go down as the greatest modern college football coach, maybe greatest ever college football coach. So in Caleb Downs' mind, what made Nick Saban so special?
Very disciplined person. He was committed every single day to being his best self. And not many people can actually say that and be truthful with that. He was the same person every single day, and he taught me a lot about commitment, about being disciplined, consistency, everything that goes with that, and being great. I feel like that's what he embodies.
Once Downs went into the portal, he had his pick of just about anywhere he could have possibly wanted to transfer. So what made the Ohio State defense appealing to him?
I feel like it's being a part of a bunch of moving parts that have to work together. The offense has to do their own thing, but the defense, everybody has their own responsibility. And when everybody can do their own responsibility, everybody's going to make plays and everybody's going to be able to succeed. So I just feel like being a part of that and trying to help myself and help my team be better in terms of that, that's a big thing for me.
Downs was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, so he was very, very highly touted and very, very highly sought coming out of high school, just as he was in the transfer portal. So how was the transfer portal recruiting process different from the high school recruiting process?
Recruiting on steroids, I say. I got like 102 calls in one day. So just, well, not in one day, probably 7 or 8 hours. But just being able to minimize what my mind was going through, that was a big thing for me. And being able to make a sound decision off of what I knew.
You heard him mention they're getting over 100 calls in like 7 or 8 hours in the span of one day. How do you avoid getting overwhelmed by that amount of communication?
Pretty much you have to go silent. You have to be able to control your circle in terms of getting your opinions from people that you trust and people that you know you can count on. So that was the biggest thing for me, just being able to understand what the people around me were thinking and how I wanted to go about it.
NIL is part of the conversation around pretty much every high school recruitment, every transfer portal change, all of that now. It is just sort of an ever-present part of the conversation around college football. So how did the NIL piece of this factor into Caleb Downs' decision?
At the end of the day, I love playing football, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to make money or do anything like that. I know there's a lot of opportunities here in terms of the city of Columbus, but at the end of the day, I'm here to help this team win football games, and I'm here to do my best and try to develop.
As far as a position at Ohio State, I think you can at least pencil in Caleb Downs at the adjuster position. That sounds like where he's going to start. That's the free safety, deep safety, the Josh Proctor position, however you want to think about it. That's where they're thinking they're going to at least start him. Lathan Ransom, he played the boundary safety, the bandit position for Ohio State a bunch last year, probably where he's going to be back. Sonny Styles could be in the mix somewhere as well, could be playing a little closer to the line of scrimmage. We will find that out during the course of spring ball. But how does Caleb Downs think those guys are all going to fit together?
I feel like more than just Lathan and Sonny can complement each other. A lot of people in the secondary can work together to be cohesive and be a brotherhood. But Lathan and Sonny, they welcome me, and I appreciate them for that. So I think us working together, we can do some real damage.
You hear a lot about guys talking about all their preparation, off-field preparation, film study, all that kind of stuff, how that factors into their play on the field. So what does Caleb Downs think about his off-field preparation, film study? How does that all factor into his game?
I would say I'm a lead at that, being able to watch film and determine what are the keys to look at each play. Being able to determine which guys I need to change up my techniques for, being able to determine what I'm looking at in terms of before the play and what my teammates need to look at before the play. I would say I'm a lead at that, and being able to make those differences each week are a big thing for me.
And finally, Caleb Downs has not gotten to do a lot at Ohio State just yet. Obviously, spring practice doesn't start for another month or so, but he has gotten to do some strength and conditioning. So what has he seen out of the Mickey Marotti strength and conditioning program at Ohio State so far compared to what he did at Alabama?
There's a lot of similarities. Coach Blue runs a great program, and I love everything that he did for me there and those guys that worked there, like Coach UJ. So I'm appreciative of how they worked, and they did great things there. Coach Mick does a great job here, so I can't really say one's better than the other, but Coach Mick, he's a very intense person.
Well, there you go. You have heard a little more than you probably have before from Caleb Downs. You know a little bit more about him. We're going to be telling you much more about him and the rest of the Ohio State defense and the rest of the Ohio State team coming up this spring as spring football kicks off in about a month. Season not all that far away. We're getting closer every day. There is a lot to talk about, though, about the season, about spring football, about some positional battles, and much, much more. And the place to do it is all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. Got our team of X's and O's gurus making you a smarter football fan, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.